Hi friends, I'm Aariaa from TLC Next Reveal. Welcome back to the channel. So, Meri and Robyn's relationship is on the table in part 3 of the tell-all. But before we dive into that, I have to keep it real. Something's been on my mind. My more recent videos on part 2 have not been doing as well. And I am starting to wonder, are you guys burned out on Sister Wives? Because I am. These episodes typically do well with views, but lately, the energy just feels off. Maybe it is not just me experiencing the burnout. On one hand, I'm still fully committed to exposing the emotional and spiritual harm that polygamy causes, especially to women and children. That part will never change. But on the other hand, I'm exhausted by the complete lack of accountability. Kody and Robyn are never held responsible, and TLC seems completely disconnected from the real pain this system has inflicted on the women involved. I just heard that Sarah Fraser interviewed Sukanya Suki. Full disclosure, I did not watch, and I have nothing but love for Sarah. She's great. We just work in really different ways. But I think she's terrific. That said, Suki evidently went on her podcast and defended the family, stood up for Kody, said he's a good dad who is working to rebuild relationships, and that Robyn is nice. And let's be real, it gave me pause. Suki works for the TLC brand. She is not there to confront narrative. She has a contract. She is not going to jeopardize it by naming Kody for what he truly is. Despite the fact that he has behaved like a petulant child throughout this tell-all, she still manages to find a way to excuse it or nudge these women towards reconciliation with abusers. And that's what's starting to feel insidious. TLC is enabling Kody and Robyn's behavior. That's why I've noticed more people lately calling for sister wives to be canceled. Not because the concept is tired, but because the show refuses to address the very real abuse happening in front of us. This show could have been a worthwhile examination of the evils of polygamy. Instead, it's showing a whitewashed version of dysfunction, edited in such a manner as to protect the system, not expose it. This is not just about the Browns. These power imbalances and manipulations happen within polygamist circles every day. What if we had a show that showed that story unfold? What if we watched as the women healed and left and dealt with the cult-like conditioning they had received? Or would that interfere with the narrative TLC's been presenting to us for more than a decade now, that polygamy is a harmless, offbeat lifestyle that only fell apart because of personality conflicts? Now, Robyn and Meri's relationship has been under a microscope for good reason. A commenter, Ellen, who is from the AUB, reminded me of something significant. In that culture, women are hot to carry the emotional burdens of the men in their lives. If a man is having a bad mood, it's your job to snap him out of it. You carry the weight. That's why when Kody told Meri he was grieving for their relationship, and she told him, "You don't get to put that on me, that's yours, not mine," and he said, "Yes, I do," it made complete sense in terms of their religious conditioning. Kody genuinely believes it's her fault he's hurting, because that's what the cult taught him. And now we're seeing that same emotional imbalance play out between Meri and Robyn. They're clearly coming from two very different places about why their friendship fell apart. And by the way, 3 episodes into this tell-all, and they've only talked about events from early in the season. There were over 25 episodes this season. Nothing about Janelle moving, nothing about Christine's wedding, no real update on Meri moving forward. And Meri even told the tell-all that she hadn't watched the video of Kody dissing her friend Jen, or the part where he claims no man would ever want Meri because of her friendships. The whole tell-all is off. It's not cohesive. They've covered episode 8, mentioned the spiritual release, but that's it. Nothing yet on Christine's wedding. Barely anything on Coyote Pass. It's like they're trying to shoehorn a story arc into 4 episodes and edit out anything that isn't Kody-focused. And let's be real, the Browns aren't a family anymore, but the show is still trying to pretend like they are. It's confusing and disjointed. Anyway, let's get into what Meri had to say about Robyn, and why, at this point, she's just done. Absolutely done. Don't y'all recall how early on Meri was already complaining about being unhappy in her position in the family? She was feeling totally isolated from the other wives, from the children, from the entire dynamic. Her one child had gone off to college. She was confronting the fact that she was an empty nester, and she didn't have as large of a brood as the others. She wasn't in the trenches of motherhood like the rest of them were. That transition is real. Anyone who's experienced an empty nest can attest to it. Your whole rhythm is different, and when all the people around you are still raising children, It's difficult to feel like you fit in. What do they do in those kinds of situations? Of course, you draw towards people who are at the same place in life as you. But Meri didn't really have a choice. And rather than being confronted with compassion, she was confronted with guilt. And who was responsible for the guilt? Robyn. Robyn would always guilt trip her, telling her things such as, "You don't want to be a part of this family anymore," or making her feel guilty for even considering doing something for herself. When Meri said she wanted to go back to school and complete her degree, Robyn actually talked her out of it. She shared stories about women in their church who got an education or a career and were pulled away from the group. It was not support, it was manipulation, and it was control. I don't even know if Meri ever got the chance to go back to school. We've never heard about it again. But that moment, that pressure Robyn put on her, tapped into Meri's deep well of guilt. Her sense of loyalty. That inner voice that told her she had to be loyal to the family, loyal to the principal, even at the expense of her own dreams and emotional health. And for years, Meri internalized that. She was never permitted to make her own feelings the central issue. She always had to be more attuned to how her choices impacted everyone else, but not vice versa. So let's flash forward to that goodbye scene between Meri and Robyn. It was obvious. Robyn came to manipulate her one last time. She wasn't goodbying out of solidarity or affection. She was attempting to pull her back in. But this time, Meri held her ground. She said no for the first time. And for the first time, she did not emotionally let Robyn control her. And yet, what does Suki do? She describes Meri's reaction as cold. Cold? How can Suki sit through years of this show, see the way Robyn has consistently treated Meri, and not challenge Robyn directly? How does she keep a straight face during these interviews? How is she not calling this out? How much is TLC paying her to play nice? Here's what I dislike. When a woman establishes a boundary, she's labeled icy or cold. When did standing up for oneself become a fault? That kind of labeling, particularly from Suki, is so patronizing. It's precisely how women are handled in this cult-like system. They're supposed to keep sweet, remain cheerful, push down their feelings, and prioritize everyone else's needs over their own. So when Meri does finally draw a line, she's been labeled cold? No, that's not cold. That's healing. That's strength. But in this system, when a woman stands up for herself, she's defiant, cruel, mean, difficult. And Suki, whether unconsciously or not, is reinforcing that very same abusive mentality, putting the responsibility on Meri rather than calling out Robyn's manipulative tactics. Why has Robyn never been called out on this show? Why hasn't anyone called her out in the tell-all? Meri's interview with Tamron Hall was the first time I truly saw the fault lines in that dynamic. Tamron told us that from the minute she arrived on set, Robyn was in charge, steering conversations, advising people on what could and couldn't be uttered. Kody would defer to Robyn, and so did Meri. And when Tamron told her, Meri did not disagree. She consented. It's only a matter of time before Meri opens up about what really happened between her and Robyn. Because what we're seeing is not the full picture. And when that truth comes out, I think we're going to learn that they were never close. That Robyn played a much bigger role behind the scenes in isolating and controlling Meri than we've ever been shown. Meri confessed that she walked into this tell-all feeling generous toward Kody. Because he was nice to her, love-bombing her, calling her 2 weeks before production, saying he missed her. Why? Because he wanted something. Likely her support on Coyote Pass. Likely her silence. That's manipulation, pure and simple. He did not want Meri to approach that tell-all angry. He wanted her softened up, willing, vulnerable to him, so she would not tell her truth. And Meri herself said it. Had she known then what Kody was saying behind her back, she would not have been so gracious. She felt taken advantage of. The absolute best thing that Meri can do for herself is to go no contact with Kody. Period. She does not need to seek advice from Suki or anyone who's perpetuating this cycle of manipulation. And the best thing we can do is trust her, and trust the other women when they tell us they were manipulated, played mind games with, shamed, insulted, and financially exploited. Because if three women are recounting the same story, that's no accident. That's a pattern. That's a Kody and Robyn issue. So why are we still allowing their abusers space to defend themselves, deflect blame, and sidestep true accountability? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts on this dynamic. And if you're not already subscribed, click that subscribe button and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, friends. See you next time.